I think we can all agree that 2020 was one of the worst years in history, in the lifetime that we are living, and we are ready for better. We're ready to get unstuck. We're ready to push aside that emotional, that mental fatigue that we've had from such a hard year, and we're ready to not let it define us. We're ready to move past and let our story and what we've experienced propel us forward instead of hold us back. So that's why I'm really excited to have Heidi on as our first guest in 2021 to help us get unstuck, to help us not let our past define us and be able to use our story to move forward. So thank you so much for being here, and I can't wait for you to get the most out of today's episode. You're listening to the Badass is the New Black podcast. I'm Krissy Chin, your host, here to teach you how to build an online business that you love and in a way that allows you to work a little bit less so you can enjoy a whole lot more. My hope is that you've showed up to today's episode ready to learn something new and will be inspired to take imperfect action in your business right away. I won't make you wait any longer. Let's dive in. Welcome. Heidi is a lifestyle entrepreneur, host of the wildly successful Lifestyle podcast. She's an author and interior designer. Her mission in life is to inspire all of us to live our version of an intentional, beautiful, wildly successful life. Girlfriend, you are pulling at my heart here. I love your mission. So all about it. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to talk to you today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on here.
Awesome. Let's tell the audience a little bit about your background. It says interior designer, you're an entrepreneur. So let's just hear how you got to where you are now.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'd love to. I am an interior designer by trade. So I have been doing that for about 20 years. And I love doing that. And part of that is because I love making people feel beautiful and calm in their homes. But since I was a little girl, I've always loved to just encourage people and make them feel, comfortable in their own skin and feel beautiful. And so I think that's why interior design became my trade. And then when I was doing interior design and I started doing it, and I was doing a little bit of commercial spaces and mainly residential though. And I just realized I was like, okay, I want a little bit more. We travel a lot. And so I wanted to do something that I could do when we travel. And so my podcast is just a way that I can reach a lot of different people rather than one-on-one, because as it is with your clients are internet, they make money on the internet and they are reaching more people, which is so beautiful about the internet, being able to do that. So with my podcast, I'm able to reach into people's heads and just say, okay, look, don't give up, or here's my challenge to you this week. Or, if it's an interview, I'm looking for how to make each person think about how they can be better that week, or if it's about their skin or their inner beauty or their mindset or their design. I'll do design podcasts as well. So it's an entire kind of lifestyle podcast. And that's where I am passionate about right now. That's where my focus is. And I love, love, love it. So
Awesome. So you still do interior design?
I do.
And you do the podcast as well.
I do still do interior design. And I think I always will, because it is where my passion is. And I feel so at home when I'm doing it. When I'm in someone's space, and I'm always thinking about how they're going to be living in it, how they're going to feel when they're sitting there. And the highest compliment for me that I can get from a client, and I get them regularly from my clients, is that I just want you to know how I'm sitting here having coffee and I cannot believe how much I'm enjoying my space. And yeah, I like to tell my clients too, and I start with them, especially if we're starting in one room, which is fine. It's that, a lot of times designers will say, well, I want to do the whole project, but I don't mind starting in one room because it snowballs.
Oh, it does.
amazing. They're calling me back going, okay, now all the other rooms in the house have to go. And my husband's on board because he loves it.
Totally. That was this, my office, if you're watching the video, I had a designer come in because I was like, this is my space. This is my creative, where I need to feel good. I'm going to be here all the time. I want it to be bright and like feel my energy so we can feed off of it. And then it snowballed. And it was like, okay, can you also spruce up the living room? Well, now that's open to the kitchen. So now we've got to do something with those, hardware. And now this room and the entryway. And it's like, it totally, I think.
Yeah. And how much happier are your kids and your husband? To me, like when your home is your sanctuary, and where, like, especially you work from home, and your home office is where you live during the day. And so it should feel and represent who you are as a person. And I think that's something that I feel is undervalued sometimes by people. They think, oh, their home is just a place to lay their head. And I cannot express to you the importance that I find in having your home feel like a respite for you. And that means different things to different people. That could be energetic to some people, and it could be calm. For me, I'm more calming. I like to have a calm space. So my home we don't have children, so it's not full of, lots of activity all the time. But there's some clients where they have lots of children and they want it to feel energetic, and they want people to have like, creativity everywhere. And so it's a totally different feel. Each person can define that, but I think your home should represent who you are and make your kids like want to do homework, so if it's cluttered, maybe they can't think. So there's lots of different ways to look at design, and for sure, I think your home should reflect who you are.
I love it. And we're not even going to be talking about this for our topic today. It's not about design, you guys.
Oh, I know.
Like mindset, but I love this. And I was just picturing like, what would my house look like if there weren't children and 5 adults sitting here and all, and I was like, oh my gosh, it would be so clean.
White sofas, maybe.
Exactly. Awesome.
Okay, we won't talk about design anymore, but you can tell like I'm passionate about it. It does fall in line with what I do though. So
no, absolutely, and I love it, and I agree. And now that I'm home all the time, but now that everyone's kind of home all the time,
yes,
I'm seeing a lot more people really get into, all right, this is my space, this is where I am, and I want it to feel good. I definitely didn't take the plunge until I felt like I had the financial means to because I couldn't do it myself. I had some ideas, but I just wanted someone who was a professional to come in and me tell them what I like and then make the magic happen. And so it was definitely waiting for that financial piece to make sense for me to do it. But I'm so glad I did. And if you are creative, in the least, and, like to do that kind of stuff, take the time to do it. I think.
Well, for your listeners, more than likely, like you said, either because of COVID, they're working from home, or because they work from home because they're working on the internet. Being able to have a space that is your own and that you define as a workspace, that is interesting to me. I've seen that change. When I first started my podcast was right at the beginning of COVID. I wasn't going to talk about all of that. And then I went, what do people need right now? They're at home and they're not used to being there. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of, my first episode was really how to set up your home office. And that, I think a lot of people liked it because they're like, okay, I need that, because all of a sudden now I'm at home and I'm working and I don't have a space. So, multi-purpose spaces became a thing. And so, yeah, it's, that's just, for people which most people are working at home right now, I think still.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my husband's here. Everyone's here all the time. I've got the recording sign on the door, but that doesn't mean I won't get interrupted or you hear.
Yes, that is very true. That's, I had to put my dog up if that helps.
I love it. I love that you took what you're good at. You're good at, that's your trade, right? Design. Right. Passion for it, you have experience with it, and then even transforming into this podcast to create and live the life that you want, you then found this need for, hey, people need this information about design now that
Right.
they're at home. And you brought the two together, maybe not for every episode, but at least to integrate it in. And I think that's really, really powerful. And I want to point that out to the audience listening, because I'm all about that. I'm all about taking your strengths and using them and leveraging them in your business to generate success. And I think when you can incorporate the things that you're comfortable with and familiar with and tie it in, it becomes aligned so much better.
Well, absolutely. I've heard this from you before, for sure. And that, people, if you are taking your strength, sometimes we go to school, high school, and then we are forced to make a decision on what we want to be in college, and you're young, And so I always say to people, if you aren't loving what you're doing, then figure out what you've always done naturally really well. Mm-hmm. And yes, okay, you have a degree in this thing, and that's where you're going to make your money for the time being, right? And then why don't you start realizing and thinking, maybe I could make money doing this thing I love. And so what I did was just like, I love people, and I'm very social. And so I thought, what can I do that helps me connect with people on top of everything else? Like during COVID, when the lockdown was, I am social. I don't like to be isolated. Mm-hmm. And so I feel very connected to my listeners when I'm doing the podcast. And I also, so that was another thing, but I think people, we all have strengths. We all have weaknesses, and we all have strengths. So we want to not focus on our weakness. Let's focus on the strengths, and let's find out, okay, is this something I'm really good at? Like, can I make money at that? Well, yeah, you can. Mm-hmm. And, so that's what I encourage people to do. Figure out what you're really naturally good at, and stay at it. Figure out a way to make money at it.
Yeah. And so what would you say to someone who's like, well, I'm not really good at anything? Because I hear that.
Oh, that's not true.
I think lack of confidence.
I honestly believe that we all have strengths that are natural to us. And it could be, look at what you do in your downtime. My brother is a hunter, and he loves to hunt. And so I've always said, you need to do something either that gives you the amount of time that you can hunt enough to make you happy, or do something where you're making money hunting, and maybe you take people on tours, or you work something around hunting. So there's things where it doesn't matter what you do, you can figure out how to teach someone how to do that. Yeah. Like that's the thing, is that you are good at something, and that you just have to figure out what that is.
Yeah. And we're totally in an age right now where people are looking to the internet to find other people to learn from. They're not like, oh, what degree can I go get and pay all this money? They're like, that's right. Hey, who do I connect with and vibe with, and, like what they've got going on? And, they're showing me a little bit that, building that trust, and that, they know what they're talking about, and then they're connecting with you, and they're taking your advice, and then they're buying your program, or they're opting into your membership.
Right. Because it's helping them. And, sometimes people, you said you were talking about confidence and not maybe thinking they're good at anything. I also, in fact, that's one of the things that I would love for people to download at the end of the podcast is, I think that we take on labels. People maybe don't have the confidence because someone else is kind of telling them what they're doing, and they're like, you should do this, or you should do that, or you're listening to your husband or your wife or your parents, and you're trying to do what pleases them. And so I am a big believer in know who you are, know what you want, and work from there. Just be like, what do I really want? I just finished the book by James Clear, Atomic Habits. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's a really good book. But anyway, he writes in his journal every day, and I've done this now for probably 2 months since I heard him say this. What do I want? Okay. And it changes, like it'll change, but ultimately find out what you want. And if that means writing it down every day, it might change, but it also could be that you realize, oh my gosh, I don't want to be doing what I'm doing right now. I want to create this. And that's what I did. I mean, I didn't want to be working on massive projects where when we travel and we're in, the islands, and I'm worried about, is that sofa going to come in and be the wrong color? I don't want to do that. And so I created a life where I don't have to worry about that anymore. I just don't have to take on that kind of project anymore where I'm going to be in the islands worried about it,
Right.
So that's what I encourage people, is to design your life the way you want it. And that is possible, and it is doable, and you're making it happen for people through your, ability to help them with business online, and that is what your strength is. I think I love it, so, it's good. It's good.
Thank you. And Heidi and I were just talking before we hit the record button, and we were talking about, she's got a podcast. I've obviously got a podcast. Hello, you're listening to it. But we were talking about just the system and the process behind it, because I'm big on that. And I was like, the system just wasn't working for me. So when I had like a bump in the road and had to stop my podcast for a little bit, I was like, look, I'm going to take this time to reassess how I do this, because stressing about the podcast releasing the next day and I don't have it is not working for me. And I was like, this is my business. I get to decide how it runs and what I do. And so I'm like, hey, taking a few months off, I'm going to batch record. Like, I'm going to make it work for me. And so, and I love that you were like, hey, this is not working in my business. So I'm going to add this other element to, bring in more finances so I can shift and do that. And so I can travel and do the things. I love what you said, that example about your brother. Like, it would be helpful if you either found something you could do that provided more time to do something you love,
right?
Or create something that you can make money off of doing the thing that you love.
Right.
100%. I agree with that.
Well, because sometimes people think, well, this is what I'm destined to do. I've got a 9-to-5 job. I don't have, I can't do anything else. And it's like, okay, hold on, just 1 minute. All right. Can you do that? And in the meantime, instead of, coming home, and I know you're tired, instead of watching Netflix, maybe listen to, the Badass is the New Black podcast, because you're going to learn how to do something online. You take what, still don't quit your day job just yet, but do something where you can create the life that you want, because that's what we can do. We do not have to be miserable. That's my message to everyone. If you have a dream in your heart and in your mind, and you're meant for it, I promise you are. And if you just realize that, then you'll start noticing opportunities that are opening, doors are opening, and walk through them. It may not be the door, the podcast, the way you were doing it may not have been the way, but you're going to figure it out, because it's good, and you're helping people. So you just figure out what does work for you, and eventually you're going to catch on to something and you're going to go with it. So, yeah.
Is there something that when you started, this other branch, with podcasting and whatnot, is there something that you were doing in the beginning and you're like, this is not working. I've got to
oh yeah,
shift and rotate?
100%. Like, for starters, I was, oh my gosh, you're going to laugh so hard. I was recording I do my podcast on Anchor. Okay. And so I was trying to record on Anchor, and you can't stop and start and stop and start, because you can't edit it. Like, at the time, you couldn't edit it. So I figured out a way to record on a different program like GarageBand or QuickTime. And so those are very easy to edit. And now it's so easy, because I can start and stop and start and stop. It doesn't matter. And it was a nightmare. Like, it was really stressing me out. And I had a friend who was he did like studio production and stuff. He was like, Heidi, you're an idiot. Do it this way. And look, it saved my life. I was ready to just throw my hands up. But yeah, so definitely. And I could probably think of 100 million things that I could tell you, but that was one of the main things that helped me out a lot, and that would have been something that could have really just been derailed my train, but I didn't let it, because I knew that this was what I was meant to do. And so when you know that and you know you're on your mission, and sometimes it takes a minute, but when you know, and you just notice the doors that open, and there will be people that come in and say, hey, try this. And my advice would be to try it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Heidi and I are both living proof that you have got to just take action and get started. That imperfect action that I talk about all the time in order to figure out what has to be tweaked and modified to fit into your perfect life, to your best life, right? Because you only get one. So let's work on working on improving it.
You only get one, and you are responsible for it. We all, we have stories, and we have pasts, and we have things that we want to go. And sometimes it's justified. Somebody's like, man, if that happened to me, I'd be, I wouldn't make it. But I have a story, you have a story, and you can either make that story work for you, or you can make it be an anchor. And that's what I try to share that with everyone, is to take your story. And that's kind of what my book that it's not out yet, but it's called The Art of Living a Wildly Successful Lifestyle. And it's really my journey from mildly to wildly, mildly successful to wildly successful. And it's really just, don't take your story and let it kill your dreams, right? Take your story and let it be stepping stones to your success. Let it fuel you rather than dragging you down. Mm-hmm. And realize that the only person that can do that is you. You're the one that knows what's best for you inside your heart. You are it. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't matter what your mom thinks. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks but you, because if you are on a mission to do what you want to do, people are going to be like, what in the world? They're going to be in awe of you. Yeah. And it's okay. That's good. Yeah. So I could go on and on about that.
I'm going to listen to that over and over again. So many great nuggets. Don't let what your mom thinks stop you. Don't let what your neighbor thinks stop you.
Oh, I know. The neighbors can be trouble.
Yeah, exactly. And so powerful when you said, you're responsible for it. Like, take responsibility.
We don't want to say, we don't want to admit that. It's true. You have to decide whether you put that food in your mouth. Nobody's forcing it. If you're trying to lose weight, it's nobody's fault but yours. If you got to work on it. And sometimes there are reasons where you are where you are, but that still could be your story, Yeah. And so I always say, just take what you're doing and recognize that you are responsible. There's nobody else going to do it for you. I had a guest on a podcast, on my podcast, and he's very kind of a rough and guy, and he was like, nobody's coming to save you, dude. Like, you are. And I loved that, because I believe that, like, you have support, but you're ultimately the only one that's gonna do it for you.
Yeah. And sometimes we can't control, obviously, things that maybe happen to us, that are out of our control, but 100% the next action that you take, you can control, right?
Absolutely.
And you can take ownership and responsibility. And that doesn't mean that it's easy, right? No. It can be super hard. And most of the time it is really hard.
Yes, it is. But here's the thing, you control your thoughts about it. And that's, don't deny your thoughts. You've got to feel your thoughts, but you also have to realize that at some point you've got to say, okay, brain, I control you. You don't control me. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you what to think now, because it's easy to get into, if something really bad happens, and those things happen. It's okay to feel it and to, process that, but it's only going to be up to you whether you get through it and use it as fuel, or whether you get, it takes you down and people are like, yeah, well, that happened and it's justified, but I don't want to live that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that about you. So what is one, if someone is just like, I'm feeling stuck, I'm feeling like I don't know which direction is up and down right now, I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do, what is, some words of wisdom from the amazing Miss Heidi that you can give?
Well, what I would say would be, first of all, to make sure to know where you are right now. Okay. So know where you are and know where you want to go. Right. So it's easy to sit there and go, well, I don't know what to do. Well, I just don't know what to do. Well, that's because you haven't decided. You're not writing it down. So for me, I do vision boards all the time. And if I were somebody and I felt stuck, I would want to get unstuck really quickly. So how do you do that? Well, you think about, what is the number one version of me? Like, what is the best version of me? What would wildly successful look like for me? Not for anybody else, for me. And I would write it down and I would say, I want to live here. I want to be doing this. I want to work this many hours. And this is what that would look like. So I would go and I'd go to Walgreens or CVS or whatever, the drugstores are around you. And I'd get a foam core and I would get some magazines and I would make a vision board of what I want my life to look like. And I would put that, I would make copies of it. And you can do a digital one. I do vision boards on pages all the time. So go on, that's easier, but you go online and you can click pictures and what does that look like? For me, I want 18% body fat. I want, there's a certain house on the beach that I want. I have certain, I love animals. There's lots of things that I want and they're on my vision board. And I also have my 3 words that are me on my vision board. Now they change too, but don't accept other people's labels. You create what you want and you decide who you are, because we're adults and we get to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that would be my advice, is to know what you want, figure out where you are, but know what you want. And just knowing it, your brain wants to work towards it. It's like the old saying where you say, if you don't think about the elephant, right? Do not think about the elephant. You're just going to think about the elephant. So I always say, just have the idea in your brain. You don't even have to take action just yet. You're going to notice doors opening because you know what you want, and there will be doors that are opened. And you just walk through them. Just be sure to take the action of walking through those doors when they pop up. Or maybe a book. I just mentioned Atomic Habits. Somebody out there might be thinking, oh, I need some new habits. Go buy that book by James Clear. It's a good book. And sometimes it's just that if you get nothing more from this podcast, it may be that you read a book that told you to start, this habit, and that catapulted you into the next step of your life.
I love it. So. I love it. Awesome. Okay. Well, you've got a freebie for everyone listening.
Yes.
Do you want to tell them about it?
Sure.
Okay.
So there's a link, and I think you already have that link, right?
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes for sure.
So there's a link, and it's to my website, and it goes along with sort of knowing yourself and not taking on other people's labels, because sometimes we're identified as, kind of, oh, well, she's kind of the lazy one, or my favorite that I've heard before is, well, she's mom's good little eater, and it's like, you have to not be mom's good little eater if you want to be a certain, fitness, right? So those are the labels that we can hang on to. No, you decide who you are. And that's what this is. It's a process that people can walk through and decide their 3 words, which is, it kind of has to do with, their core emotion, their style, and then also just who they want to be physically, right? Do you want to be 18% body fat? Well, you're going to be that, so, and you come up with 3 words that you put everywhere, a reminder on your phone, put them on a sticky note on your mirror. Just remember that that's who you are. And it goes back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, that your brain wants to make you right. And so if you think the world's working for you, it is. If you think the world's working against you, it is. So just remember that, and your thoughts and words are powerful. And these words that you create with this product, it's a free gift, and it is a beautifully done PDF. And it's kind of fun to do, because it has what are the brackets, how people like to fill out brackets. It has brackets of words that help you identify who you are. Awesome. And then you boil it down to 3 words that you have, and that's it's really it's just kind of a fun process, and it's an easy one. And if you don't want to go through the whole thing, you just kind of skim it and come up with your 3 words. I'm okay with that too. Just take your 3 words and be that.
All right, awesome. So in the show notes, it's called "You Get to Define Who You Are," and ain't that the truth? I added that tagline, and ain't that?
I love it. I love it. I may steal it.
The link is in there, and you guys can do that exercise. Highly recommend it. I have 3 words that pop up on my phone every morning at 10 a.m. And I view those. So
I love it.
Recommend it. And then, projects that you're working on right now, podcast,
Podcast is Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast, and I'm on Apple and Spotify at the moment. And so, go in. I do 2 a week on Monday. It's just a quick 10-minute, under 10 minutes. Sometimes they're 5 minutes of just motivation. Like, hey, my challenge for you this week is, know your brain, or be mindset, have a mindset. So there's lots of things on Monday that I just kind of quick. So if you want to just run to the grocery store and listen to something good, that's what Monday's for. On Wednesday, I do, it's called Wednesday Wisdom, and I have interviews with, it's really just a whole, like I had your episode number 47 for your listeners if they want to listen to us do on the Wildly Successful Lifestyle podcast. So it's just different random things of how to be wildly successful. So it could be design, it could be business, it could be health, any of those things. So
cool.
Yeah, that's that.
And then you mentioned you're working on a book. So I don't know if the book will be done.
It's in editing at the moment. So it's the art of being wildly successful, my journey from mildly to wildly. And it's really it's kind of an interesting story of my life, but also combined with how you can, what you can do and the mindset that it takes. And, it's a fun story. It's not a long book. So I think it's like 100 pages. So okay. It'll be out, and it'll be on my website. So the link will be on my website as well.
Perfect. And I'll put all that in the show notes. Before we go,
okay,
I've got a little game for us to play. Are you ready for it?
Fun. Yeah. I'm always up for games.
Okay. So it is going to be a this or that, or mixed with a would you rather.
Oh, fun. Okay. I love it.
And we're just going to do it like quick, off the cuff. Answer quickly. If if neither option and you've got a different option, throw it in there.
All right, cool.
Totally down. This is your life. You get to answer how you want, right?
Okay, yay.
Okay. All right. Favorite season of the year?
Summer.
All right. Go on a shopping spree with Kim Kardashian or the girls from Home Edit? It's a tough one.
Probably Kim Kardashian. I like fancy things.
I love it.
And I don't even watch the Kardashians. So, but I know that she's got lots of really I see her outfits. I'm like, I would wear that. Well, some of them. I mean, obviously they have to be toned down. But yeah, probably. I think I'd go shopping with Kim Kardashian.
All right, love it. Pool or beach?
Beach.
Would you rather have McSteamy or McDreamy be your real life doctor?
McDreamy.
Work hard or play hard?
Play hard for sure. The reason why I was thinking that, the reason why I didn't even just blurt out play hard is just because I like to work hard.
You could say both.
If you had to give me a choice, I'm going to play.
You could say both. All right. Camping or glamping?
Oh, glamping. Yeah. Glamping because, my husband and I, we always say this, we go on we do sailing every January, and it's a huge catamaran. We go with 3 other couples, and he's always like, well, this is our camping. We're like on this sailboat, and I'm going, babe, don't ever say that in front of anybody. But it's funny because now he's always like, we're not going in a tent. I kind of want to go on a tent, but he's like, no, you will get into a tent and then blame me for being mad. So
yeah, totally.
So glamping for sure.
Okay. Blinds or curtains? I had to ask.
Oh, curtains. Duh. If I could turn I could turn my thing to show you my curtains. Yeah.
Love it. All right. Justin Bieber or Harry Styles as your personal butler?
Harry Styles.
Plane or car?
Oh, plane.
Travel. Iced coffee, hot coffee, or no coffee?
Hot coffee.
Save or spend?
I am a both. Both. I do not believe that if you can't pay cash for it, I don't want it. Like if I can't afford it and I can't pay for it as in cash, then I don't want it. It's not fun to me, right?
Yeah.
So like it so I'm a saver, but I do like nice things, so I will spend money. If I have to be honest, because my friends are gonna be like, "What?" But I don't buy it unless I can afford it.
Stop lying, Heidi.
He just lied. She totally lied. No, I do love things. I love nice things, but I don't feel good if I was to think about buying something and had to put it on a credit card, without having the money. So
okay, love it. 2 more. Would you rather have younger Sylvester Stallone or The Rock be your bodyguard?
Rock. These are all, I'm like, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Last one, city or country?
City.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Heidi.
I grew up in the country and I love the city, right? So that's why I think I've done the country, and I really would like to live in the middle of the city, New York.
I love it.
Yeah.
It. So fun having you here today, sharing, hearing your wisdom on mindset and all of that. So great. You guys, I'm going to have Heidi's links in the show notes. You can find her on Instagram, the Heidi Dawson. We'll have that in there. Links to LinkedIn and her podcast, everything in the show notes. So make sure you check that out. And then remember, until next time, to just channel your inner badass and take imperfect action every single day.
I love it. Thank you, Krissy.
You're so welcome. We'll see you later, Heidi.
All right. Bye-bye.
Until next time, remember, done is better than perfect, my friend, and to channel your inner badass and take imperfect action every single day.